Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Success Secrets Revealed show with Ronald Couming of RCS Online Solutions. And today we are blessed to have with us Frank Shankwitz. Frank Shankwitz probably needs no introduction. You have to have heard about the company that he co-founded many, many years ago that has helped literally hundreds of thousands of kids and their families. Have you ever heard of Make-A-Wish? Well, here is the Wish Man. Here is the man who created Make-A-Wish and is proof positive that everyone can be a hero. Frank Shankwitz.
Well, I love that introduction, Ron, and thank you. And thank you for the invite.
Thank you for making time for us. As we were talking earlier, we had a little technical difficulty how to use a different service. But as you were talking earlier, you're doing a couple of different interviews daily now, right?
Yeah, daily, and it's a catch-up thing. Because of our movie Wish Man, I've been on the road literally for 6 years with the production, everything else, and then the speaking engagements on a plane, usually every week somewhere. And always get this request like you, so gracious to invite me to be on these. I never had the time to do it. And now because of our coronavirus type thing, it's given me time to catch up. So for the past 3 weeks, yes, every week, on interviews.
Excellent. So at least there is some positive coming out of this quarantine. I think people are getting caught up on a lot of chores and different things that they can get done. But you touched on some great information. I mean, right now you've been doing tours related to your movie. Can you tell us a little bit about the movie, or do you want to start with Make-A-Wish and its founding with Chris and that whole story, or do you want to start with the movie? Bring us right up to speed.
Well, let's start with the creation of Make-A-Wish, which led up eventually 40 years later, well, not 40, 35 years later, to this movie being made. But if it was back in 1980, Ron, when I was introduced or notified about a little boy named Chris, 7 years old, had terminal leukemia. And I've got to back up a little even before that. There used to be a television show in the late 70s called Chips.
I used to watch it.
And our younger audience probably doesn't know what that is about, but it was a very popular NBC series about two California Highway Patrol motorcycle officers, Ponch and John. Very popular with the demographic age being from about 10 years old up until, well, because of the character Ponch by Eric Estrada, the ladies up until their 60s. I love watching that show. Very charismatic type guy. And but especially with the younger generation, like I said. And I was on a 10-man motorcycle squad with the Arizona Highway Patrol. We worked the whole state of Arizona, 2 weeks of one town, 2 weeks of another. And because of this show Chips, all of a sudden the kids who were riding into town, the two-man type teams, hey Ponch, hey John, hey Chips. It was a great PR. The kids, we got to talk to the kids, we got to go to the grade schools on our off time and just help develop that promotion. And now we go up to 1980, and our Arizona Highway Patrol, a customs agent named Tom Austin, called the Arizona Highway Patrol and said, my family has befriended this mother and her young son named Chris. Chris is 7 years old, terminal leukemia, only a couple weeks to live, unfortunately. And his heroes are Ponch and John from the TV show Chips. And he told his mother, when I grow up, I'm going to be a motorcycle officer, just like Ponch and John. And agent said, is there any way that he could possibly meet one of the Highway Patrol motorcycle officers just to hang out for the day? And this little boy's in the hospital, he's on IVs. And our department got very involved and said, yes, we can. And I happen to be the officer they chose to do that because I'd never met this little boy. And with his doctor's permission, we picked him up at our state police helicopter at his hospital and flew him to our headquarters building in Phoenix. And they timed it so I'm approaching the landing zone on my motorcycle just as the helicopter is landing. Now we initially trained with California Highway Patrol. Our motorcycles were identical. Our uniforms were almost identical, except obviously ours said Arizona. But as this helicopter is approaching, I'm seeing this little boy with his face against the glass, just this big grin. And I expected our paramedics to help him out of the helicopter. The door opens up, he jumps out, runs over to the motorcycle. Can I get on? Of course you can, Chris. He is laughing and giggling. He knows that he's watched ships so much. This is the red lights. This is a siren. These are the buttons here. What's in your saddlebag? The same as Punch. Just having the greatest time. And I'm looking at his mother, and she's crying. Why is she crying? Then it dawns on me, she has her 7-year-old back. Typical boy. And Chris went on that day to become the first and only honorary Highway Patrol motorcycle officer at that time in the history of the Highway Patrol, complete with a custom-made uniform we had for him, his own smoky hat, and his own badge, which is still assigned to him today. But most important to him, his motorcycle wings that showed he was a motorcycle officer. And unfortunately, a couple of days later, Chris passed away. His wish had become true. And our commander came to me and he said, we've just learned that Chris is going to be buried in a little town called Kewanee, Illinois. And I would like you and your partner to go back and give him a full police funeral because we have lost a fellow officer, which we did. And we were met, and this is before the days of internet, Ron, but the press is picking everything up from our journey from Arizona to even when we landed in Chicago to our drive down to this little town of Kewanee. And we were met by Illinois State Police, City Police, County Police, all to help bury a fellow officer. And Chris was buried in uniform. His grave marker reads, Chris Gracious, Arizona Trooper.
Wow.
Flying home, I just started thinking, here's a little boy who had a wish, and we made it happen. Why can't we do that for other children? And that's when the idea of the Make-A-Wish Foundation was born, maybe 36,000 feet over Kansas or something. But that was the start. That little boy, Chris, was the inspiration that led to this organization that is now worldwide. And as you mentioned, has granted over 500,000 wishes worldwide just because of this one little boy.
It's amazing. And it did start with that one little boy being the first one to get his wishes, Frank. But as we've spoken on several occasions, I mean, I've gotten to become friends with you and speak on stages with you across the country. It's true that Chris was the first wish child, but the whole Make-A-Wish Foundation came about because of what you and your co-founders did and went through to create the organization. Isn't there a funny story about the Disney, how you first got Disney to come on as a sponsor?
Well, yeah, and again, Chris wasn't the first wish child officially. He was the inspiration.
Okay.
And it took me, and this is 1980, it took me 6 months to put the foundation together. I'm a police officer. I have no idea how to start a nonprofit. And again, before the days of internet. So you go to the library and look through the library cards and everything, you find out how to start a nonprofit. The hardest thing was to find in Arizona to start a nonprofit for IRS, we had to have a total of 5 board members.
Wow.
And nobody believed in my mission. I mean, I said, this is what we're going to do. No, it'll never work. Nobody's heard of anything like this. That was the most difficult part, to find those like-minded people, as I say. But we finally did it. And I was the first president and CEO. And we started getting small donations. Again, people had never heard of anything like this. It was in March of 1981 when we met our first official wish child. Again, a 7-year-old boy, unfortunately leukemia. And Ron, and leukemia in those days was death sentence. The children did not survive. And now about 70% of the children, in fact, are surviving. I like to say through the grace of God and modern medicine, more and more children are surviving. And that's why we switched the mission to children with life-threatening illnesses. But a little 7-year-old boy named Frank, Bopsy was his middle name, Salazar, lived in a very poor community in the area of Phoenix. And I was his wish granter. In other words, I went out to interview him to find out what he might like to have or do or see or go to. And that's the 4 categories for the children. And I was in uniform, and I'm a motorcycle officer. I borrowed one of our highway patrol cars to go out to this area. And his mother was embarrassed for me to go in the house. It's still dirt floors, didn't even have indoor toilets or anything. So Bopsy got inside the patrol car. And he was very stoic. This is a little Hispanic boy. Very stoic because he was going through the rites in the church, the rites of manhood. He wasn't supposed to show emotion. So we're just sitting there talking, and I said, if there's something you wanted to do or see or have, and he started thinking, well, I'd like to be a fireman. I said, a fireman? You're sitting in a highway patrol car. You want to be a fireman? And I got a giggle out of him. Now we're starting to break the ice a little bit. And I thought, boy, that's easy. My girlfriend at the time, Kitty, which is now my wife, her brother was a Phoenix fireman. We can put that together. No, I want to ride in a hot air balloon. I thought, well, that's easy. My friends up in Prescott, where I grew up, they have a hot air balloon. We can do that. They said, no, I want to go to Disneyland. And we had never thought about an outstate of Arizona travel wish. And I said, well, Bopsy, and he got a kick out of it because his real name was Frank, and I'm Frank. And in Mexican, I was raised by a Mexican family in some of my years. Pancho means Frank in Spanish. So he got a big kick that we're both named Pancho.
Nice.
And I said, let me go and I'll talk and I'll come back to you and see what we can do about your wish. And I went to the board, and I was the first president and CEO, and I said, I want to break the charter right now. A child only gets one wish. Let's grant all 3 wishes, and we're going to get so much press out of this, it's going to put us on the map of who the Make-A-Wish Foundation is. Phoenix Fire, that was so easy. Phoenix Fire Department came together. They even made the little turnout suit for him, helmet his size. We're sliding down the fire pole, out in a ladder truck, spraying down the cars in downtown Phoenix. It was a beautiful March day. Where did the rain come from? The people coming out. The hot air balloon. And again, the local press is picking all this up. Now you're getting to the Disney story. Our secretary kept calling Disney and saying, we're the Make-A-Wish Foundation. What we'd like, we have a 7-year-old boy, terminal illness. If he can get free admission into the park, and also he's in a wheelchair, get to the front of the lines. He's very ill. Now, they had no idea who we were. And we learned later that Disney gets these bogus requests all the time. And she kept calling and said, they won't talk to me. I can't get through the director of public relations. They just say, sorry, we can't help you. I said, well, let me call. And I called over there, and instead of, I got the secretary of public relations, and instead of saying, this is Frank Shankwitz, president of Make-A-Wish Foundation, I said, this is Officer Frank Shankwitz, Arizona Highway Patrol. And you can almost see her kind of setting up a little bit straight. Yes, sir, what can I help you with? I said, I need to talk to the director of public relations. What is this about? I have a warrant for one of your people. Now, guess who I got to talk to right away? Immediately, he's on the phone.
Yep.
But the first thing I said, sir, I just lied to you. Here's my name, here's my badge number, here's my supervisor's name and his phone number. All you have to do is call right now and I will be terminated. But will you please listen to my story? Well, he listened to my story, and that opened up the gates for Disney, which is now, we're our 40th anniversary, has spent millions and millions of dollars granting wishes, helping us out, one of the top supporters and sponsors of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So every now and then you got to lie a little bit, but qualify that lie right away.
Well, it's, it's definitely being creative, Frank, and look all the good that came from it too. That's amazing, huh?
It is. And again, that Disney put us on the map. People ask me, how did we grow so fast? Well, because of Disney, and Disney put it all over their press and media. Then all of a sudden we're getting calls from NBC, Dateline, CBS, all those major shows.
Wow.
And again, and that what spread it all over the United States. Within 3 years, we're already, how do we get chapters in these other states? How do we get chapters in these other countries? And it's because of the media that made it explode.
Wow. That's excellent, man. What an amazing story. I mean, it all started from one little boy, and it just gave you an inspiration, gave you an idea, and then it's fermented. Roughly, how many people have received these, all these wishes?
Well, right now we're a little over, and we're just had our 40th anniversary. We're a little over 500,000. That's hard to figure.
Wow.
And that's just the children. Now, when you impact the families, the average family of 4, I mean, look at that. We're looking at over 2 million people have been impacted by the foundation. We're in 46 countries on 5 continents and 61 or 2 chapters now in the United States. Now, I'll say I was first president and CEO, but you've heard the term hire people that are smarter than you.
Yeah.
And I'm a police officer. I know how to do that, but I'm not the expert in running a nonprofit. And our board made the wise decision, let's start hiring, because we never took a salary. I've never taken a salary with Make-A-Wish. Let's start hiring the professionals in the nonprofit world, which was the greatest decision the board ever made, because we brought in those experts. And those experts over the years have made those in the nonprofit world, have made the foundation grow to what it is today. Surround yourself with people smarter than you.
Nice. I love it. Learn it, do it, delegate it. That's what I tell a lot of my clients too, you know. That's excellent, Frank. I love that. Now, in addition to Make-A-Wish, you were in the Air Force and you served for what, 35 years or so in the Arizona Police Department?
In the Air Force, and then I did 42 years with Arizona Department of Public Safety, starting
Wow.
out our Arizona Highway Patrol Division, like I said, as a motorcycle officer, and then getting promoted into detective. And spent the majority, I worked narcotics for several years, undercover narcotics, and then the majority of my career was in our homicide division, and that's what I retired out of in 2014.
Wow. So you've been a public servant and just helping people your entire life on multiple spectrums within the military, the police department, and in people who are sick and possibly dying or dying, plus their entire families.
Yeah, and it's not a career I looked for, but it just happened to work that way. Some people are designed to be whatever. I tried. I went to the private sector for 7 years, in fact, for Motorola, following the Air Force, and went to work for Motorola in Phoenix. This is during the Atlas missile programs. And Motorola was looking for people with top secret clearances. And even though I didn't have an engineering degree, they sent me to school. I used my GI Bill and got into statistical engineering of all things. My math teachers in high school just cracked up on that. But and a great career, Motorola. I mean, from this poor boy, poor beginnings, all of a sudden making more money than I ever thought in my life. But I'm a little town guy. I didn't like living in the Phoenix. It was the same routine thing day after day. And several of my friends had joined the Arizona Highway Patrol and kept saying, why don't you join? With your military background, your engineering background, you'd be a perfect fit. I said, guys, I'm making 1 week's salary, what you make in a month. I don't want to give that up. But after 7 years, I just got a little antsy. And on a whim, I put in an application for the Highway Patrol, was accepted, and I said, okay, I'm going to take this cut and try something different. And like you just mentioned, best decision I made 42 years later. I found my true path during that time. And it also led me to giving back that I was taught as a young boy, to give back to the community. Got involved with Special Olympics on my off time. And that was the first time I got involved with the children and just started giving back.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, it's amazing, but I'm trying not to do the math here because, you know, I think you're about 45 maybe.
I wish.
Because we got you coming out of the service, doing 7 years in Motorola, 42 years in Arizona Highway Police Department, and then the state police, and that was, you know, 5 years ago, 2014. You retired.
Yes, yes, and right. Now you took different math courses than I did, because, and I appreciate that compliment, but I'm 77 now.
Wow, God bless you. But think about all you've done in your life, Frank. I mean, it is absolutely, and I've met you, you know, a dozen times or more. Like I said, I've been blessed to speak on stages with you. But often when we go out to these events where we speak, one of the things I like the best about it, one is the speakers stay for usually the whole 2 or 3 days events. Most speakers do. They don't just come in and fly out, but you get to go out to dinner or lunch with the participants, and you get to meet the other speakers, and we actually, people become friends after you see them 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and, you know, phone numbers get exchanged. So I've been blessed to be on the circuit, and you're one of the greatest people I've met as well. So grateful for that. But you're also one of the most humblest people. Yesterday, just by chance, we had Greg Reed on, and I believe he interviewed you probably at Secret Knock, and asked you, what is it, something that you wanted? And then you said, well, nobody's ever asked me what wish I wanted. And from there came your movie.
Yeah, and we were doing you mentioned Greg Reed, and everybody in their life has mentors. And it was, I think, I can't remember the year now, 2011. And he said, I'd like you to start speaking on my circuit. And have you ever done speaking? I said, well, Greg, I speak for Make-A-Wish Foundation. They send me all over the world, literally, for the past 35 years as a keynote speaker. And he said, well, what do you get paid? I said, I don't get paid for that. That's my foundation. And he said, well, I'd like you to get on the speaking circuit away from that. So Greg developed, we all need mentors in life, all of a sudden a whole new career in the professional speaking circuit. And you start out as a novice, and then you get notoriety. But he said, we're going to do a film called Stickability. It's a documentary that we're filming during this event of his called Secret Knock. And we have actors, actresses coming in. But one of the people I want to interview on stage, like you normally do, we're going to film it for the documentary. And I said, okay, Greg, and we did the thing. And it surprised me at the end what you just mentioned. He said, Frank, what's your wish? Which wasn't part of our script per se. I said, well, nobody's ever asked me that. I've never thought about that. It's not about me, it's about the kids. He said, no, if you had a wish, what would it be? Do you want a Lamborghini? Do you want exotic vacation? Do you want custom-made boots? What do you want? And I said, well, I just like to have my story told. I like my kids and grandkids to know that dad did something cool in his life. And that was it. That was the end of my thought about it. But after this, the director of that segment, Theo Davies, came up to me with Greg and said, I've never seen an odder reaction following your presentation, and we should do a movie about you. And I said, no, you don't. He said, yes, we do. And I thought they were talking about another documentary. He said, no, we want to do a feature film. And he said, we're going to call it Wish Man. And we went to lunch and talked about it. And I said, well, guys, I'll do this, but in my contract, I have to have complete script approval because I've worked with Hollywood before. I know how they embellish the true story.
Yeah.
But that started this next 7-year journey with writing the screenplay. Theo Davis was the director and wrote the original screenplay. And what a job he did on that. But it took 2.5 years, the give and take between the two of us. And then we started filming in 2017 in Prescott, Arizona, and up in my area in Arizona. And that was another thing, Ron. Arizona doesn't give tax credits anymore to the film industry. And I really lobbied hard to get it filmed in my area because I want to give back to this community. When I was a teenager and even growing up here, that give back to a lot of these businesses that used to help me out and so on, and the business owners.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Hollywood brings in several $1 million infused into the community during filming.
Yep.
And they finally agreed to that because of the contacts I had. I said, hey, there's this old warehouse. Give it to us. Don't charge us anything. We're going to make it do a sound stage. We're going to do everything else. And by the way, turn on the electricity, plumbing, air conditioning, and we're not going to pay you. And they said, well, okay. Several other scenes that we had, we're going to shut you down for 2 days and film it here. And you normally charge $20,000 a day, but we're not going to pay you. Okay. And just the community helping out. Again, that's that big thing. Everyone can be a hero. But started filming in 2017 and completed it later that year, a full year of editing, and we did the Hollywood premiere in last year in June.
Yeah, it was amazing. I saw it. I wasn't able to attend it myself, but it was amazing. And you're up on Netflix right now, the movie, right?
Yeah, we for the somewhat of a limited theatrical release. Again, a low budget independent film, but the limited theatrical release got us noted to the Academy Award. And all of a sudden, we're finding out that amazing for a low budget film. Just what an honor for Theo Davies and the rest of the cast and crew. We became qualified for Best Picture for Academy Award for 2019.
Wow.
I mean, just blew everybody away. And then in January, we went on Netflix for a limited run, but it's so popular on Netflix. And again, here I'm going to boast a little bit. The movie is Wish Man, based on the book.
Wish Man.
Yeah, Wish Man.
Surprising, both names are the same.
Yeah, but it became so popular on Netflix, we just got extended for 3 more years on Netflix.
Wow.
And I'm getting messages every day, Ron, from people that have seen this movie, how much it impacted their lives. So many Wish people, Wish children, Wish families enjoyed it. And I just got one yesterday from Johannesburg, South Africa. We're all over the world right now with this movie.
Wow. Yeah. And I've told you before, my niece is a Wish child too. And,
yes, I recall that.
Yep. And her and her whole family went to Disneyland or Disney World, whichever one's in California. And there was a snowstorm here. So I think they were supposed to come back on a Friday or a Saturday, but there was a snowstorm here in the Boston area, so our airport was closed. But once the Make-A-Wish Foundation heard about that, they still covered their entire expenses out there for the hotels and everything for like another 3 days. So, I mean, you guys, the organization was just beyond phenomenal. And, you know, it really helped. And thankfully, my niece, Riley, you know, she had thyroid cancer. She's total remission. She's in college now. She's like a star athlete, last I knew. And so, you know, it's just a blessing. And I'd like to think that sometimes when kids are sick and, you know, laughter and joy, I mean, I wonder how many people after they have gone on these have just kind of like gone into remission, you know, just because all the endorphins and joy and stuff were activated, you know?
Yeah, we call it the power of a wish. We came up with that term about, well, now 20 years ago. And I was involved with the study that the doctors were doing in Arizona, just what you're talking about. We have what we call a rush wish. The doctors will come to us and say, if you're going to do this wish, you're going to have to do it the next month or so. This child is not going to survive. And the children, by the way, from 2.5 to 18, that's the category in there. It seems like the average age is 7 years old for some reason. But the child will go on the wish, whatever it might be. It might be a trip, whatever it might be. Travel trips are so popular, especially the Disney type trip. They will come back and go in total remission. And the doctors couldn't figure this out. And that's why they started this study. How could this be? We're going from terminal and only a few months to live to total remission. And just what you said, I think the child comes back, you know what? This was so much fun. I got a lot to live for. The heck with this disease. It's all up here.
Yeah.
And like I said, now, when we started, it's about 70%, that's an unofficial figure, are surviving. And like I mentioned earlier, because of the grace of God and modern medicine, that these children are surviving.
It's amazing. And I'm so glad that they made that movie. And in addition to you being in the service for 42, I mean, being in the military, being a police officer for 42 years, helping well over 500,000 children receive their wishes, plus with their extended families, upwards of 2 million people being directly affected, plus all the other people who just have the goodwill of knowing that there's people like you out there. You know, your upbringing, your childhood was less than perfect, less than, you know, picket fences and a puppy and all that. But, you know, you didn't let that cripple you. You didn't let that make you bitter and sour. You know, you went on and you just had such a great heart and such a humongous contribution. So I'm really glad that in the movie, it talks about your childhood and it kind of shows those things. Would you like to speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, and you know, anybody can have a different path. It's about the people who mentor you and your own mindset. And character, and I learned this very young, character and integrity are in fact developed, they're not inherited. And I was so fortunate in my childhood to have those people around me to help develop that positive character and integrity. But I'm born in Chicago, and this is in the early 40s. At 2 years old, my mother divorced my father and left. We never had no idea, even in later years, she would never tell me where she went. Ages 2 to 5 years old, a very happy childhood, living with my grandparents during the day like a lot of kids did. Parents were working. My dad on the weekends, aunt, uncles, cousin, everybody, picnics, family fun, movies. I mean, just a great young childhood. In kindergarten, and 5 years old, a lady grabs me off the playground, says, "I'm your mother, you're going with me." I had no idea who this lady was. Dragging and kicking, threw me in a car, and she said, "We're going to Arizona." Now, we hadn't had geography yet in kindergarten. I had no idea where Arizona was. But, and I mean, that scared us, scared to death. And every time I started saying something, a little smack on the head shuts you up so you don't get another one. But she took a strange route to Arizona. We ended up way up in northern Michigan, up in the Upper Peninsula. And I came to find out later, as I'm learning, that it's so she can make enough money. She had some friends up there and a job that we could get to Arizona, so she could get to Arizona. But our home for the first summer was in a tent at a campground in Arizona, right on the shores of Lake Michigan. Very little food, out by myself all the time. But and I'm a city boy, and all of a sudden this is a whole different experience for me. But after about a month or two, I started enjoying this. I'm by myself all the time, even at night. My mother, whatever she's doing at night. But I'm learning right on Lake Michigan. I taught myself how to swim by watching other people. I taught myself how to fish. I found some old discarded fishing gear. I just started enjoying that life. But again, it was always food was an issue. Shelter was an issue. When the big storms came in, she'd find an old flop house somewhere. We'd sleep in the car. And that was for 5 years. And my dad was always looking for us. When I was 10 years old, he did, in fact, find us and went and got the local sheriff to arrest her. And during that time, she threw everything we had, it wasn't much, in an old Jeep station wagon, and off we went to Arizona. And now I'm 10, and I'm kind of learned how to take care of myself. Outside of a little town called Seligman, Arizona, on Old Route 66. And if anybody saw the Disney animated feature Cars, Radiator Springs is modeled after Seligman, Arizona. That's what the Disney imagers use for that. But right outside of town, she ran out of gas completely. And the first time I'd ever seen her cry in 5 years. What's wrong, Mom? She says, I have no money. We don't have anything. We don't have any food. Everything is gone. I don't know what I'm going to do. A rancher stopped by. What's going on? She explained the situation. He said, let me go get a gas can. Follow me back to our ranch house. You can stay with us for a while until you get settled. And for the next 6, 7 weeks, that was our home on the kitchen floor, a couple bedrooms, but we had cover, we had shelter. All of a sudden, we're getting food. And biscuits and gravy, I love biscuits and gravy to this day. But at 10 years old, I got a job as a restaurant washing dishes. She got a job as a motel maid. And while I'm working at this one restaurant, I'm looking across the street, and there's a gentleman, a Mexican gentleman, building something. And I went over and said, hi, what are you doing? And he said, grab a hammer, kid. Now, I had never had a father figure to teach me anything. I don't know what to do with a hammer. And he said, what's your name? And I said, Frank. He said, well, in Mexican, that's Pancho. From now on, you're Pancho, which is my nickname for the rest of my life. And Juan became my father figure. He started teaching me things. He started, like I said, carpentry. He started teaching me work ethic. It got me involved with sports, got me involved with music, got me involved with those things that normally a father would do. And became a very, very good friend till he passed away just only 10 years ago. But when he told one day, he said, Frank, when you can, give back. And I said, what do you mean, want to give back? The poor people are helping us. And he said, exactly. Look at the widow Sanchez. She's always trying to bring you and your mom beans and tortillas to help you out a little bit. Because again, food was still an issue. And you can give back to her. I don't have anything, Juan. You don't have to have money to give back. This is the biggest lesson I've learned my whole life. You can give back your time. Look at her front yard. It's full of weeds. You can go pull those weeds. You can rake and clean up. Look at her front porch. It's peeling. It's falling apart. You've learned the things to do that. You can help build that front porch. You can paint and scrape. And again, you don't have money to give back. And then, unfortunately, when I started 7th grade, and we got a little old travel trailer that we ended up living in. Didn't have indoor plumbing, but the Santa Fe Railroad was in Seligman, and they would allow us boys, us town boys, and very few town boys, everybody else lived on a ranch or an Indian reservation close by, to use the men's locker room. So that's where we got our showers and everything else. And I go home to this little trailer. It's being hooked up to a truck. What's going on, Mom? She says, I can't afford you anymore. I'm leaving. You're on your own, and I'm just sorry. And there goes my home down the street. I go to Juan, and any kid would be devastated, and I was. Juan, what am I going to do? And he said, I know the situation. He said, now this is where you have to learn turning that negative to a positive, which is a very popular term today, right? But this is in the 50s. What do you mean, Juan? My home just left me. He said, I've arranged for you to live with widow Sanchez. She's going to charge you $26 or $20 a week, room and board, and you make $26 a week. Now, all the money I ever made went straight to my mother. He said, for the first time, you're going to have $6 of your own every week. And that's a lot of money to a kid in the 50s. He said, that's a positive. He said, for the first time in your life, you're going to have your own room, your own bed. I was sleeping on a couch. That's a positive. She's the best cook in town. Well, there's no argument about that. You don't have to worry about meals anymore. That's the positive. And the biggest thing, she got the first television set in Seligman, Arizona, Mickey Mouse Club. That's a big positive.
That was it. It was sealed.
Yeah, and that just stuck with me my whole life. To have those type mentors and to learn those type lessons. And I always say, you hear the thing, it takes a town to a village to raise a child.
Yep.
And Seligman, very small, 500 people, hasn't grown that much today. But again, everybody in that town, they knew the situation. Frank, what can we help you with? Frank, you need to do this. Frank, are you studying? Are you getting your homework done? I mean, the teachers, coaches, everybody. So I remembered those lessons.
Yeah, that's amazing, Frank. So, I mean, you really come from extremely humble beginnings, and you've just done so much. Your whole life has been helping other people. I want to be respectful of your time, but I'd like to ask you, like, if you had, like, a lot of people who are going to listen to this will be business owners, entrepreneurs, or people going through some type of strife, right? Could you give maybe 3 tips, if you can, on what people can do to either have more success and more happiness in their life? And it sounds to me like gratitude would be one of them, but I'll let you speak for yourself.
Well, and that's so hard, especially what's going on today, you know that. And again, the message of the movie, Wish Man, I'm going to plug that again here. It's on Netflix, folks.
Wish Man on Netflix, guys. It's a great movie. I've seen it.
But the message of the movie is everyone can be a hero. When somebody needs help, if you can't help them, and like I just mentioned earlier as I was talking, it doesn't have to be money. It can be your time. It can be in-kind type things. I'm associated with several nonprofits right now. I'm no longer with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. It allows me to be on these several other boards, 6 boards throughout the United States. And one is Level Up Homes, Project Kind in New Jersey. We just put out a video today. And they're taking care of the homeless population as much as they can, getting them food, especially what's going on right now, food, shelter, clothing. And you can empty your closets. And this is nationwide. You got some time right now, empty your closets, get it down to your homeless type shelters. What we're doing right now with Project Kind is making sandwiches. People can't afford to give monetary donations, but they're collecting sandwiches. If you can make 10 sandwiches in this area, it's in the Newark type area, and drop off at the center so we can pass these out to the homeless. I mean, what does that cost you? A loaf of bread, something, bologna, whatever it might be, peanut butter and jelly, type thing like that. Just help somebody out.
Yeah, that's huge. And that will definitely, I mean, like you said, it's $5 or $10 to you, but you just made 10 meals for 10 people. I mean, that's huge.
And then the other thing is we mentioned about Greg Reed's documentary, stickability. I love that word. I use it a couple times at a commencement address. I'm so honored, Ron, to give the commencement address at Ohio State University and Columbus, and also St. Norbert College in Green Bay. In fact, I got honorary doctorate degrees from 2 of them. Again, my high school teachers got a kick out of that.
Nice.
But I mentioned that word to them, stickability. You have an idea, don't give up. And people say you can't do that. And again, my lesson as a young boy, why can't I do that? Let's find those negatives and turn those negatives to a positive. Stickability, stay with your mission. Don't give up.
Stay with your mission. Find, like, you also had great luck with mentors.
Oh yeah, my whole life. And I'm a mentor. I think that's so strange coming from me. I'm a mentor to so many people. In fact, I've got phone calls today from several people that want to start a nonprofit, this and that. How do I do this? I make suggestions. I never tell people you should do this, you should not do that. I said, here's some suggestions. And that's what was taught to me. Filter it out. See what works for you. Some of these may work, some of them don't. Filter it out. See what works.
Frank, you're an amazing person, and everybody, I highly recommend you look at the movie called Wish Man. It's on Netflix right now. Possibly buy the book, Wish Man, as well. And
yeah, and you can go to my website. The website is Wishman1, the number 1, wishman1.com. Through there, if you'd like an autographed copy, we're going to promote here on my book, best-selling book, which is also on Amazon, or the movie. Go through my website or private message me on Facebook.
Yep, I love it.
We'll get the information on how to purchase an autographed copy.
And I don't know if you remember this, but about a year and a half ago, we spoken in many places, but we spoke in Arizona, and you gave me a book, and you signed it for the local Rotary Club. They do car washes to raise money and donate it to Make-A-Wish. They do it every year. I just saw a notice outside the bank that they're doing it again in June. So there's a lot of ways that people can contribute. They're contributing their time doing car washes. They got the car wash place that donated the place that they go in and they wash the cars. And so the members of that Rotary are washing people's cars by hand and, charging them, I think it's like $10 or something. And then all that money, 100% goes to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. So whether you're making sandwiches, you're washing people's cars, there is just so many ways that you can give back to community. And I remember one time you spoke and you mentioned that that their contributions, whoever's, contributes to the miles of smiles.
Miles of smiles. That's my favorite line with
Yep.
our wish children. Yeah. And that's just like Riley. No matter what her age is, she will always be a wish child.
Yep. Yeah, she's dynamite too, and she's doing great. She's in college right now. I was just talking to my cousin Chrissy. But is there anything else in closing that you'd like to say? I don't want to leave anything unsaid that you'd like to say.
Well, no, again, it's just like the message I say, everyone can be a hero. Just help somebody out if you can. And look what's going on right now, Ron, with the coronavirus. Not just people helping out, but these big corporations all of a sudden. And we should recognize that, how these people, and I don't even think they're trying to, in fact, advance their brand, which is one of my speaking things to corporations, how to advance your brand, but they're just doing it. You got your General Motors making ventilators. You got your major hotels offering free rooms to these people, the doctors, nurses, first responders. If you need a place to rest for a day, here it is. Restaurants giving out all these to the communities.
Yep.
To the communities, restaurants that are closed down. They're saying, come on over. Here's the food for first responders, for your EMS, for your doctors, nurses. Just helping out that way.
That's huge.
Great. And hopefully this will change maybe the whole mindset of our nation. America is so generous anyhow. I mean, look at what we do for donations nationwide, not only in our country, but throughout the world. But I think it's just going to increase right now.
Excellent. It's definitely, hopefully a lot of good will come out of this. But Frank Shankwitz, from one of the co-founders of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, also served in our military. So thank you. 42 years as a police officer, rising to the ranks of homicide detective. You're just a great person, and you're humble, and you've contributed to so many, Frank. And everybody, if you want to see the movie, and it shows his life and everything up. It's called Wishman. His website, Wishman, it's on Netflix right now. He also has a couple of books called Wishman, but wishman1.com is his website. And Frank, I'm going to put all this stuff in the descriptions as well. So if there's any information you want in there or anything like that, just send me a text and I'll add that too. So you've been listening to Frank Shankwitz and Ronald Couming from RCS Online Solutions. And Frank, if there's nothing else, I'll end it here, and we'll talk at another time.
And Ron, thank you so much for the invite. Pleasure talking to you.
You as well, Frank. You have a great day. Thank you for making yourself available.
All right, so long.
Bye for now.